The Sabres can do so much today to rewrite the narrative of the early season. And all it's going to take is a win against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. So, not that big of an ask. Hey y'all, I'm Chris, this is the SaberCast, and today we're going to be taking a look and kind of previewing the Sabres' fifth game of the year as they get set to take on the Florida Panthers later today. This is I would say still a very important game for Buffalo. They got off the schneid last time. They were able to reverse the fortunes of the early season where they couldn't score any goals by scoring 8 goals. But today is a chance to keep some continuity and actually make that win against Ottawa mean something. Because if you just lose again today, you're kind of back where you were. So if you can find a way to beat Florida, you can find a way to improve your position and get 2 straight, then you can start talking about maybe righting the ship this season. But as of now, we're a game away from doing that. Heading into this game against Florida, I want to talk about I want to, as always, update the injury situation with the Sabres, which seems to be just kind of an ongoing nightmare. There's always more to talk about when it comes to the injury front, but we are getting a little bit of good news today, along with some not so good news as well. So we'll touch on that. And then we'll take a look at the Atlantic Division and kind of frame this game up within the Atlantic Division. What does it mean? How has Florida been performing? Obviously, how's Buffalo been performing? And what would it mean to win this game? And what would it mean to lose this game? We'll touch on that as well. And then, of course, we'll get into the game itself. We'll talk about kind of Florida's situation, how they're doing, what are their strengths and weaknesses. And, of course, talking about Buffalo, what are our strengths and weaknesses heading into this game? And do we have a shot? What should we be hoping for as far as a result in this one? So let's get into it. I said there was injury news, so we'll take a look at that first. The first thing is there's 2 pieces of good news and 1 piece of bad news. I'm going to go with the good news first. The good news is that, and depending on who you ask, it might be good news, it might not be good news. But the good news is that Mattias Samuelsson was a full participant in Friday's practice, and he is by all accounts expected to play on Saturday. It sounds like whatever he's been dealing with is more of a pain thing than an actual can make it worse situation. He says he can tolerate the pain, so he's going to be going against Florida. And that kind of is in line with the transaction we saw yesterday. Obviously, Ryan Johnson going down, Zach Metsa coming up. I thought if Samuelsson was going to be good to go, it doesn't make sense to keep Johnson in as a 7th defenseman. Rather, you'd want a guy who you're not actively trying to develop in as the 7th defenseman, and that looks like it's going to be Metsa. Whether he gets into the game or not, that remains to be seen, but Metsa, Bryson, 7th defenseman, is a lot more tolerable than having prospects in that role. The other piece of good news is that Michael Kesselring took his first skate this morning. It was a rehab skate. He did not join the practice yet, but the first time skating as a part of his rehab program. He's in the beginning stages of being able to come back and play, but he is not ready to join the practices. But the fact he was on the ice, the fact he was skating, is a good sign. It means that probably within the next few weeks, he'll be in a better place as far as his injury goes. There's still no timeline in place, but probably we're still looking at a few weeks. Again, I would be saying sometime in November, maybe we'll start seeing him in the conversation to be back playing. The bad news is Justin Danforth. We said yesterday that we didn't have any information on him. Obviously, he left the game Wednesday when he went to block a shot. He ended up leaving that game in the second period after blocking a shot, and he's going to miss a significant amount of time, as Lindy Ruff says, with a lower body injury. And what does that mean, a significant amount of time? It sounds like it's going to be more than a month. He's probably week to week, but within this month, it's not going to be an expectation or possibility that Danforth will be back with the team. That is a big loss on the bottom line because there's not really a guy on this team who can do what Danforth can do as far as being a complete two-way forward. The only person on this roster who is similar to that role, though a bit bigger and a bit perhaps better at it, would be Greenway. But of course, he is also injured. So as far as those kind of two-way tough, defensive, physical forwards. We now have 2 sitting on the sidelines. There have been no moves to replace or recall anybody. So what it probably means in the short term, there are still 2 forwards on the roster who were, quote, surplus to requirements, that being Dunn and Gertzen. So what this probably means is that Dunn, I would imagine, is going to get in the lineup on the 4th line, and you'll be looking at a line of Kozak, Dunn, and Malenstein, while the top lines remain pretty much the same. It's not going to mess your lines up too much, and I honestly do think Dunn is going to be up for the challenge to go in there and battle, but you're losing a big veteran presence now. So with him out, only Zucker and Lyon are over 30 years old in terms of the entire lineup. Now, that doesn't matter so much, but it does highlight just the youth that the Sabres continue to put out there on the ice every single night. So, with that in mind, we'll probably have Samuelsson back, and I would imagine Dunn is in the lineup on the 4th line to replace Danforth. Kesselring still has a ways to go. So, that's where we stand as far as injuries and roster movement. As far as the Atlantic Division and where do we stand right now, it's pretty obvious that we are in last place. We've only played 4 games and we only have 1 win. We've played the fewest games in the division. In 7th place is Tampa Bay, 1-2-2. They have 4 points. Ottawa is in 6th, 2-3, 4 points. Florida is in 5th at 3-3. That's a bit of a surprise, but the Panthers have lost 3 straight heading into this one. We will highlight that as we go. The Boston Bruins are 3-2. They have dropped 2 straight after their 3-0 start, kind of coming back to earth as I think a lot of expected. Toronto has recovered a bit from their 1-2 start. They've won their last 2. They're 3-2 and up into 3rd place and playing much better. The Montreal Canadiens and their youth movement are 4-1, and Detroit is also 4-1. Both teams on 4-game winning streaks, and they lead the Atlantic Division in a surprise situation. But again, we're only 5 games in. It doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. But what it does mean is that there's a lot of those really strong teams like Florida and Tampa Bay who we figure will be there at the top at the end of the year. And the Sabres are still within striking distance of those teams coming into play today. I wouldn't worry about Detroit. I wouldn't worry about Montreal. I know Montreal is doing great with their youth movement, but those are teams that, if you just look at their rosters, are going to fall back down a little bit. So as long as the Sabres can play well and generate points from time to time, they will be there with those teams. But we dug ourselves a hole with the 0-3 start, and a win against Florida would dig us pretty much right out of that. We'd be sitting at 2-3 with 4 points, and the Panthers, we'd only be 2 back of the Panthers with 2 in hand. You figure if that's going to be a playoff team this year, then being right there with them puts you in a decent position moving forward. So, what's going on with Florida? So, Florida obviously started this year on a tear, 3-game winning streak at home. The quality of opposition a little bit in question. They beat Chicago by a goal. They beat Philadelphia by a goal. They crushed Ottawa 6-2. And then they went on the road to Philadelphia where they lost 5-2. And then they went to Detroit where they lost 4-1. And then they went to New Jersey where they lost 3-1. They're having a bit of trouble scoring. They've only scored 4 goals in the last 2 games while conceding 12 goals. They've been outscored 12-4 over this 3-game losing skid here. Additionally, they received more bad injury news a few days ago as it was revealed that Kulikov, one of their top defensemen, is going to be out for 5 months after receiving surgery. So, at this point for the Panthers, injuries to key personnel are kind of piling up, right? So Barkov gone, Tkachuk is out, and now Kulikov is out. Those are 3 players who are tough to replace. They still have a lot of high-end talent. They still have a good system in place. They're still going to make you work for everything, but it's starting to accrue. The injuries to key personnel are starting to accrue for Florida. And so, because of that, you might get in your head, perhaps, they're a little bit on the vulnerable side. That might be overstating the case, but they're certainly not playing well right now. Now, as far as Buffalo, are we playing that well right now? I think you can't really say that. We had 1 good game, And I would say for about half of that game against Ottawa, we didn't play particularly well. We do not generate a lot of possession, and we can easily be out-muscled. We don't go to work on the forecheck. We don't cycle the puck. We're not going to go at Florida, and they're going to very much be able to take their game to us and probably hem us in and make life very difficult. Last year against Florida, the Sabres went 1-2-1, so we didn't have the best amount of success, although we were in a lot of games with them. But I just don't like it from a stylistic standpoint. Unless the Sabres can possess the puck more, unless the Sabres can occasionally take it to the Panthers and hem them in their own zone, I think it's going to be a challenge. The one thing we do have working in our favor is that Florida is not a very offensively prominent team at the moment. In fact, both teams are really struggling a lot on the offensive side. If we take a look at the numbers here, of course, the two teams are tied for 28th with 2.5 goals per game. Obviously, Buffalo is getting that off the strength of an 8-goal game, whereas Florida has been more consistent throughout. Shots on goal, Buffalo actually has the advantage. They're 17th to Florida's 20th, but basically even. The power play percentage, Florida's 25%. Buffalo's at 21.4%, so Florida is a bit of a nod there. And it also ignores that Buffalo, outside of one game, has been absolutely woeful on the power play, so we don't know if they're fixed yet. Faceoffs are not a good place for either team. Florida is 46.7% on faceoffs. Buffalo, woeful, 40%, which is worst in the league. They really have to step up their game in the faceoff circle. And then when you look at the defensive stats per game, Buffalo is really outclassed here because even if Florida is not scoring, they still can keep the puck out of their own net. Buffalo, on the defensive side, they're 22nd in goals against, 3.5 per game. Shots on goal allowed, 30th, 34.5 shots allowed per game, which is not good. Penalty minutes, Sabres are averaging 10 penalty minutes per game, which is 22nd in the league. But the penalty kill has been outstanding, 93.7%, which is good for third in the league. On the other side, you have Florida. Their goals allowed is 2.85 for 13th. Their shots on goal, only 24.5 shots allowed against per game. That is good for 5th. So Buffalo is allowing 10 more shots per game on average than Florida is. And then you look at the penalty minutes and penalty kill. Florida is 13th, and the penalty kill is 90%, which is tied for 8th. If Sergei Bobrovsky does indeed play, he's been absolutely outstanding so far. 3-1, goals against of 1.77 and a .922 save percentage. Alex Lyon's been up there as well, though. Despite the 1-3 record and the 3.05 goals against, his save percentage is a .912. So you'd have to give Florida the advantage, obviously, defensively. And but these are two teams that have really struggled offensively. But just stylistically, it really favors the Panthers' style of play, right? Buffalo is a team that relies on a lot of skill and one-rush chances and is not able to generate possession. Florida, if they can play their game the way they want to play, they will stop you in the neutral zone. They will be able to forecheck, and they will eventually wear you down and score goals. And I don't know if Buffalo is built to survive a game like that. But I tell you what, it's a tremendous opportunity to win a game like this, win a game where you have to outwork the other team. It's something that we have not been able to do. If we're able to do it, if the Sabres are able to take it to Florida and win this game or send this game to overtime, then I think we have to be very encouraged as a fan base in it. Now, I know these are not the powerful Florida Panthers we've seen the last really 3 seasons, but this is still a solid core, a good group defensively. They're struggling a little offensively right now. So if they're struggling offensively, let's try to flip the script. Let's try to be the aggressor. Let's try to push them a little bit. And I think it's very important for Buffalo to come out firing and have a good first period. You don't want Florida to get in the game, get confidence, and find their style and their good vibes again. If you're Buffalo, you have the good vibes. You're at home. It's a Saturday afternoon game. The crowd should have a good energy. So you'd like to see Buffalo take advantage of that, get out in the first 5 minutes, get a goal, kind of put the doubt into Florida's minds. I mean, this is a team that's lost 3 straight road games. So if you can get an early goal, they might start thinking, oh gosh, man, not again. This is not good. And make them be the ones who have to step up their play. Yes, I know that in terms of personnel, we're still outmanned, even with the injuries to Florida. And maybe systematically we're outgunned as well. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a chance. If you look at momentum, it's squarely in the Sabres' corner. They just have to go and battle and try to win this game. I know that's not particularly a deep insight, but I think sometimes it just comes down to play on the front foot, be assertive, and really try to dictate the game if you can. If they can do that even for a little bit, I will be encouraged that the Sabres are taking steps forward this year, because in the first 4 games, they have been dictated to early for the most part. The only game where they came out fairly strong was against Colorado, but even then, it was spotty at best. Ottawa, they were just outworked for the first half of the game, and then they had the power play explosion. But you can't wait for something frustrating to wake you up, like the slash, like the goal that Ottawa scored and then the slash that Tkachuk was called for. That woke the Sabres up. You have to be up. If you can't get up for a game against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions at home on a Saturday afternoon, then you have a problem. That's the long and short of it. So that's what I have looking at this game. The Sabres just have to go in there and dictate terms to Florida and be confident. I don't know if it's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, I can imagine that this will just be the Florida Panthers get-right game, which I'm sure is what they're envisioning right now. So I hope everyone, if you're going to the game, I hope you enjoy it. If you're watching at home, I hope you enjoy it. Hopefully we get a result, and hopefully next time I see y'all, we'll be looking at a 2-3 Sabres team that's kind of caught back up with the pack in the division, and hopefully we'll have lots to celebrate. So let's put some good thoughts out there, and let's hope that's the result. So thank you all so much for watching. What do you think the result of this game is going to be? Do the Sabres have a chance? What approach should they take? Does the fact that Florida is coming in here on a bad stretch give you encouragement, or do you think it's still going to be a tough one for the Sabres today? So please let me know your thoughts down below. We'll talk about it. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. If you want more Sabres content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you here in our little community that we're developing, so feel free to stick around. As always, go Sabres. Bye-bye.